Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. We have to ask a question. Why does Humza Yousaf hate the children of Scotland so very, very much? There is various pledges he made at the time of the election. The pledges involved things like having a free school meal for every child. That looks to not be the case. To ensure children are lifted out of poverty and that no child shall be homeless. That seems to not be the case. And of course, to make sure that there's adequate education for every child. And that seems to not be the case. In fact, this rather inadequate man has failed on three key pledges. We've covered one this morning, the 450 teachers that are going to lose their jobs in Glasgow alone. The lowest number of teachers in living memory. Children going virtually uneducated because the schools are failing. But we're going to look jointly at two other aspects, the homelessness and the hunger. And if you can have the triumvirate of hunger, homelessness and a lack of education, is it any wonder Scotland is going to be a failed state? And this is all under the rule of one man who pretends to be Scottish. Let's have a look. So 10,000 children stuck in temporary accommodation as Scotland's housing crisis deepens. Now remember, they've just taken 200 million out of the housing budget. Money that would be helpful in trying to lift these kids and give them a permanent home rather than be sitting in dangerous temporary accommodation, often having to share facilities with strangers. SNP ministers described the rise in homelessness as sobering at a time when the government is planning to slash the budget for affordable housing. The scale of Scotland's housing crisis has been laid bare as official figures reveal 10,000 children were stuck in a temporary accommodation just last year. The grim report was republished hours before the SNP and the Green MSPs are set to vote through a Scottish Government budget which will slash the spending on affordable housing. They should be made to go and visit these children and explain to these children why they don't care and why they are going to leave these kids languishing in temporary, dangerous accommodation. There were 15,625 households and 9,860 children in temporary accommodation as of September the 30th, an increase of 8% year on year. And it's going to get worse. And as there's more taxation, as the economy shrinks, as there's more pressure on everything, budgets tighten, nothing's available. This will get worse and worse until virtually every child will be in a poverty-stricken situation. Now, it can't be anything other than deliberate policy. If it wasn't deliberate policy, you'd cut the budget from independence. But that's the one area they're not cutting the budget. And so they've made the decision, the conscious and yet unconscionable decision, to let children go homeless. Now I'm just going to drop that there and we're going to come up and have a look at the other half of this, because that's just the homelessness. But if I flick across to here, boom, we have this headline. Humza Yousaf shamed over his betrayal of hungry kids, as the SNP is set to break yet another manifesto promise. Their promises are like pie crusts. They're made to be broken. Their words are meaningless and worthless. Every single one of them is a liar. You can believe nothing. And if you are sitting there and you're hungry and you're homeless and your school is rubbish, just think, thank heavens that Angus Robertson can fly away regularly every few weeks, first class, and quaff that champagne. And just look at your children. Look at your children, hungry, homeless and uneducated, and just think, I'm so glad I voted SNP. This is what I wanted. The First Minister already watered down his party's plans to offer free school meals to every primary school pupil, to instead be for just the poorest kids. But this may not even happen until the next Scottish Parliament convenes, which is 2.5 years away. Why? Because they're all mouth, but they can't pay for it. And the thought of cutting the money on budgets for independence rather than sending it to where it's needed is anathema to them. They are a single, obsessed party. They are a cult that relies on fear, that relies on obsession to keep going. It doesn't have the interests of the average Scot to its heart. Humza Yousaf has been shamed over his betrayal of hungry Scots children after it was revealed the SNP will fail on another manifesto promise, already watering down the plans to give free lunches to every primary school, which was a key component of the party's 2021 Holyrood manifesto. And instead, only the poorest kids in primary 6 and 7 will receive free food, i.e. those who get the Scottish Child Payment. But the date this happening could be pushed back until after the Scottish Government is formed in 2026. There is also a £24 million funding gap, which cash-strapped councils will need to meet. Let me see, how can I possibly raise £24 million? I know we can not pay the spin doctors £8 million a month for 3 months. Bada bing. Not hard, is it? When you look at where the spending is, and you think, why are we spending on that? Why are we spending on that? It's very easy to find the money all of a sudden when you haven't got a party in power that is obsessed with that single issue and looks at everything through the lens of independence. The children of Scotland are being sacrificed under the big juggernaut of independence, and nobody seems to care. Obviously, the parents who vote SNP don't care about their children. They obviously don't love their children. They have no concern for the children's welfare or education. They're just going to keep voting SNP regardless. And if little Johnny or Janie dies, well, it's a price worth paying for these people. It's just a shame everyone else has to suffer along with it. The Daily Record reports that the SNP executive only earmarked $43 million in capital funding for the rollout, but analysis shows the total bill is actually $67 million. Local authority umbrella body COSLA wrote, at this stage, officials have not yet been able to provide full assurance that this funding will be forthcoming, and whether it will be found in 2024-25 or 25-26. Probably neither. And if they are asking the councils having to uplift and provide free school meals for children, and yet they're cutting the funding to councils in real terms, children are going to go hungry, and those that actually have a home will go home hungry, and the rest will go to some little bedsit where the man next door keeps sitting there looking at them, you know, slavering his lips as he's watching these kids come in. Aqualung, isn't it? Sitting on the park bench looking at the little girls, you know? And yet they're sharing a house with these people because Humza Yousaf refuses to hand over the money to help housing in Scotland. Money that he's got, but money he wants to spend in other places. Anyway, I shall stop there. I shall come up and I shall leave this alone because Humza Yousaf is just an obnoxious, vertical, glitter-covered piece of human turd. And he's quite incapable of showing any kind of compassion for children. Not that you'd want him anywhere near children, of course. Coming up. So there you go. That's what Humza does to children. No home, no food, no education. It's not much of a bright future, is it? If you happen to be young and poor in Scotland. And what are you going to do? You're not going to end up with the skills that will allow you to freely move and travel away. That said, you might be able to go to university, only they're cutting those places. It's bad. It's bad. And yet these people keep voting for the SNP in the vain hope that if you keep doing the same thing over and over and over, the effects will be different. They aren't. That way, as Einstein said, madness lies. Anyway, I shall stop there. Thank you very much for watching. Do please hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, leave a like, leave a comment, please share the video, and I will speak to you later. Bye.